I'm just going to let the first few slides speak for themselves. Right? The digital nomad life is a double-edged sword. You can work from anywhere in the world. It could also be your bedroom. You get to make your own hours. Can also be all the hours. The only way I know it's the weekend is I get less email. You save all that time you once spent commuting to an office. I still don't know where that time went. I'll find it one day. Social media is full of digital nomads. You may be one of them. But hopefully, you're not posting pictures like these. Why? Because nobody works by the pool. Why on earth would you subject your entire livelihood and lifestyle, being your laptop, to a rogue cannonball? Same thing with working by the beach. Nobody does it. Sun creates glare on your screen, sand gets everywhere, and there's nowhere to plug in. Now, these may seem like these artistic visions of the digital nomad lifestyle may seem harmless. But I believe when we put them on social media, we do more damage than good in two ways. First of all, if someone who's not a digital nomad is looking at this picture, they're going to feel worse about their lives. And trust me, social media already does a good enough job of that. We don't need to help that process along. Second of all, if someone who's not a digital nomad sees these pictures and is inspired to become one, you will now be directly responsible for one of many rude awakenings that they will have as they get into this lifestyle. And trust me, there's enough rude awakenings in this lifestyle to begin with. I'm here to help you with a few of them. Today, we're going to talk about how to frame travel as a lifestyle so you don't burn out. We're going to talk about how to work remotely around the world regardless of the circumstances around you so you don't burn out. And then we're going to talk how to manage the travel and the remote work so you don't burn out. I've burned out a lot. The year was 2006 when I decided to sell everything that I owned in Toronto, Canada. This included a busy financial planning practice so I could embrace a lifelong dream of traveling long-term in a culturally immersive way. 2006 is also what I like to refer to as the prehistoric era of digital nomadism, because it didn't exist. There were no words for what I was trying to do. Remote work wasn't a concept, digital nomad wasn't a thing, location independent wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye. So although I'm sure I wasn't the only person in the world to be doing what I was doing, it sure felt that way. Which is to say, I had no idea what I was doing. Actually, that's not entirely true. I know what I was doing. I was traveling the world long-term in a culturally immersive way. This was born of a lifelong dream that was literally hatched when I was 9 years old to crack the code of countries and cultures around the world. This was my why. This was my North Star. This is what kept me going through the inevitable obstacles that came my way. And I encourage you to find your why. Why do you travel? Why do you work remotely? And why are you interested specifically in the digital nomad lifestyle? This will help you through some of these obstacles as well. So, let's talk about travel as a lifestyle. The first and most important lesson that I learned, and still, frankly, am learning in many ways, is that travel is not a vacation. Until fairly recently, the words travel and vacation were synonymous. The only time you traveled the world was when you were on vacation. Now that remote work is as much of a thing as it is, we have new ways to travel and live around the world. But it ain't a vacation. However, no matter who we are, when we first start traveling the world, we're going to feel a little bit like it is. Here's the challenge. When you're on vacation, let's start with the first and most obvious point, you're not working. So you've got a limited time at a destination, 1 or 2 weeks. You're staying in hotels every night. You're eating meals out every day. And because you've got all this free time, you're doing touristy activities 1, 2, 3 times a day. If you've done your job right on vacation, you will need to return with a vacation to recover from your vacation, and you're going to need the rest of the year to pay it off. Contrast this to travel as a lifestyle. Travel as a lifestyle, we're usually booking accommodation by the week or the month. Because our accommodation has kitchen facilities, we're eating at least some of our meals in. This now makes it much more financially sustainable. But the biggest difference is you're working full-time. Now, let's just divorce this whole idea from travel for a second. In the normal life of anybody's full-time working career anywhere in the world, how many times in the course of a week would you go out and do something that could be equated with a touristy activity, either in terms of time or money? I would argue once, maybe twice on the weekend, maybe once during the week. So for the sake of argument, let's say 3 times a week you're going out and doing something that could be a touristy activity, either in terms of time or money. You would do that in 1 day on vacation. So already we've set a very different cadence for travel. The rest of the week, what are you doing? You're doing the normal daily tasks of life. Shopping, cooking, laundry, Netflix and chill. I don't care who you are, where you are in the world, you will need some Netflix and chill time. So already, travel is not a vacation, and it's a very different pace of travel. My last vacation was in December of 2005. Literally. This is me, financial planner Nora, circa 2005. I decided, told you about this lifelong dream that I have to crack the code of countries and cultures around the world. And I've been trying to do it with vacations, and very badly. I was not able to, dig below anything below the surface with my 1 to 2 week vacations. So I decided I would take a month and I would go to South Africa. I'm like, I'm gonna crack the code of South Africa in a month. I'm gonna do this. Of course, anyone who's been to South Africa will know that that was a failing proposition. It's one of the most nuanced countries in the world, but be that as it may, I was like, I'm going for a month. It's gonna be great. Everybody at home thought I was crazy. They're like, Nora, you're going away for a whole month? What are your clients going to do without you? Keep in mind, in 2005, we didn't have the technology for me to be able to check in from South Africa and help my clients, so I was truly taking that month off. And everybody thought I was crazy. And then I got to South Africa, and people were like, so how many months are you here for? And I was like, months? People travel for months at a time? This was something completely new to me. Needless to say, the month passed by, I returned, and I had not cracked the code of the country or the culture. I left with more questions than answers. And in the weeks and months to come, I found myself burning out. Now, there's a school of thought that says that when you burn out, there's some aspect of your life or lifestyle that is not in alignment with your purpose or what it is that you really want to or perhaps should be doing in life. I have found this to be true, and I found myself at a crossroads when I was burning out. I realized I could not satisfy this lifelong dream of traveling the world in this way without going all in and making it a lifestyle. And I had 2 choices. I could put another 30 years into the conventional workforce and wait for conventional retirement age to live this dream, at which point, of course, I might not be willing or perhaps even able to do these things I wanted to do. Or I could do it now. I chose door number 2. I've been a digital nomad ever since. I knew my why. I knew why I was traveling the world. I would have cracked the code of countries. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know where I would go, what I would do, how I would earn money along the way, or even if this was just something I had to get out of my system in 6 months. Which, by the way, I don't suggest you hit the road with this level of unpreparedness. You don't need to do that these days. I always highly suggest that people at least have the foundations of their online career in place before they hit the road as a digital nomad, because there are so many learning curves to the travel lifestyle. So, a few travel lifestyle hacks. Travel is not a vacation. We've covered this. Travel slower than you think you need to. So we talked about this a little bit in terms of having a different cadence of travel. But a lot of digital nomads that I speak to who are just starting on their journey will say, I'm going to spend 1 month per destination. I say, that's too fast. So here's how I see it. Let's play this out, right? So you got to pick the place that you're going. So you got to pick the country. Then you got to pick the city or the area. And then you got to find the area in that city that's going to satisfy your criteria, whatever it is. Accessibility to restaurants, co-working spaces, safety, whatever it is, right? So you got to do a whole bunch of research to figure that out. Then you got to find the place, your accommodation, and you got to book it. Then you got to figure out how to get there, and you got to book that. You haven't even shown up yet. Then you get there, and you have to learn how to survive. I mean, I love this about travel, but let's get it right. Every time we show up to a new destination, we're like newborn children. We don't know anything. We don't know how to shop. We don't know how to pay for stuff. Sometimes we don't know the language. The first time I showed up to Bansko, on my first day, I set myself with the relatively simple-sounding task of going to the grocery store and buying yogurt. I stood in front of a wall of dairy products for like 20 minutes trying to figure out which one was yogurt. I still think I came home with sour cream that day. Now, I love this process. This is great because as the days and weeks go by, you start to figure out how to do things, right? Like there's my favorite coffee shop. There's the place I like to go for lunch. There's the lady I get my fruits and veggies from at the market. We give each other finger guns every time I go by. And then suddenly it's time to start the entire process again to pick the next place and figure out how to get there and start researching that place. And that process takes you out of being here. So, in my humble opinion, a month is not long enough per destination. But you know what? Don't listen to me. You get to call the shots. Try it out. If a month is too fast, slow down. I know a digital nomad he's been on the road for almost 12 years now, and he changes destinations every couple of weeks. That works for him. I think he's crazy. But you know what? One of the greatest gifts of this lifestyle is that you get to call the shots. So make sure that you don't plan too far in advance so that you have the flexibility to take any opportunity that comes your way. And if travel is not a vacation, then it's really important that you redefine what a vacation is. I only recently have come to realize that I don't really think I've actually been on vacation in 18 years. Kind of have, but I kind of haven't. So it's important to understand what that means to you. So let's talk a little bit about remote work, because here's the thing. When you are working from your jammies in bed, you might not think you have a real job. That certainly was the case for me in 2007, when remote work wasn't really a thing. I had a travel blog, but in 2007, travel blogs weren't really things. They were just online journals, which is exactly what mine was. As the years went by, I would eventually be considered one of the OG travel bloggers, but it was just a hobby. So my actual remote career in the early years was to work as a freelance writer. And it was weird. I typed words into my computer, and I sent them off in an email, and numbers showed up in my bank account. Especially at this time, that felt very divorced from reality. But even today, when remote work is a household name, I think anyone who is very new to remote work, who just starts doing that, is going to feel a little bit weird, like it's a little bit divorced from reality. So let's talk about a few hacks to help you do it from anywhere in the world. When everything around you, all the time, everywhere is changing, you lose the ground beneath your feet. The air you drink, the water the food you're eating, the air you drink, the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, the languages you speak, the architecture, everything is changing. If you do that for long enough, you're going to lose the ground beneath your feet. So, how this applies to remote work is the importance of having a routine, specifically a routine that gets you into your zone of genius. And by this I mean everyone has a specific time of day or set of circumstances during which they will be most productive while working remotely. So it's important for you to establish what that means to you and what those set of circumstances are and maximize that process. So for me, it's a morning routine. I wake up, I work out, I have 2 cups of coffee, a shower, smoothie, work. I've established for myself that the early part of the day is when I'm going to be most productive at work, and if I preface it with that morning routine, I'm going to be the most in the zone that I can possibly be. That means I spend the least amount of time at my computer and I get the most amount of stuff done. Now for you, maybe later in the day is a better time to work. Maybe you have an after-work routine that'll help you come down so you can get a good night's rest. Whatever that zone of genius is, create a routine around it that will get you into that zone. I really wish we would stop calling laptops laptops, because they should never go on your lap. I spent way too many years sitting on beds with my legs out in front of me, all hunched over my keyboard, or sitting at a table way too high or in a chair way too low, with my hands up here typing. These were ergonomic disasters that left lasting effects on my body that I don't wish on anybody. So now, wherever I go, I have a lightweight, collapsible laptop stand, keeps my screen at eye level. I have a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, keeps my arms at a 90-degree angle, and no matter what the circumstances are that I find, I will be able to create an ergonomically friendly workspace. I also carry an invisible bubble. Lucky for me as an ultralight traveler, it's easy to pack. I developed this as a coping mechanism because in the early years of my travel, I found myself often doing homestays, staying with people, or living with people who did not have remote careers and did not understand what I was doing, and especially did not understand that as a creative, every time I got interrupted, that was a huge it ate into my productivity. So I developed the invisible bubble. I'd turn it into a bit of a game. I'd tell people about it, because it's hard to see, and I'd say, I have this invisible bubble, and when I put it on, phew, I'm invisible. Cannot be interrupted for anything. The establishment of these boundaries allow me to be considerably more productive regardless of the circumstances. Dedicated workspace is even better. A lot of people like co-working as a dedicated workspace. You know that once you enter the co-working space, you are going to be in that zone, you'll be productive. I also like creating a dedicated workspace in my accommodation. And it is a special place. It could just be a chair and a table in the corner, but whatever it is, when I am sitting in that chair at that table, I am working. Nothing else. So that is a signal to me when I'm at that chair, that is a signal to me, as well as anybody else around me, that I am in my work zone. Here's the rub. Travel and remote work are very complementary, but they're also opposing forces. I don't know how many times I've been at my computer working. I'm like, I got deadlines, I'm working, I'm being really productive, it's so great, I'm doing it, I've got the deadlines, and I'm outside my window is this amazing destination that I have yet to discover. And it's like, I feel guilty because it's like, I'm here and I'm here. I'm working, I should be out discovering this. Like, why am I here if not to go out and discover these places, right? So I'm like, all right, shut the laptop, go out. I'm discovering, I'm doing the things, I'm traveling, I'm having fun. Oh my gosh, I'm in Peru, now I'm invited to a wedding. Suddenly I'm doing the Macarena in the Peru and it's fantastic but I have deadlines. And the only reason I can be here is because I'm here. So, this is a never-ending dance, the balancing of remote work and travel. When you can work anywhere at any time, depending on who you are, it might be difficult not to work everywhere all the time. Or, if for the less disciplined of us, nowhere, any of the time. I had been traveling the world for 12 years by the time 2018 rolled around. I had no home base to speak of at this time. I'd had some amazing adventures, obviously. I found myself in this moment in India. And I was on the world's most luxurious train in India. I mean, this was an epic bucket list experience. I was on this press trip. I should have been having the time of my life, but I wasn't. I had migraines in most mornings. I was apathetic. I was like, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Everything's all the same anyway. Why am I even traveling? I'd kind of felt it coming for a few months as well, because I found that I was spending longer and longer at my computer and I was getting less and less done. I'm like, why am I so unproductive? I'm spending 9 hours a day at my computer. So I started to connect the dots, and I realized on this train that I was on a crash course for burning out. And I'd already burned out in some smaller ways and forms along the way, so I kind of knew the signs. So I was like, okay, I got to do something. I got to do something to head this off at the pass. What am I going to do? I'll go to Rishikesh. Rishikesh. It's where the Beatles went to meditate. It's the land of peace, love, and happiness. So I'm like, I'm going to go to Rishikesh for a month. I'm going to get me some peace, love, and happiness. Burnout be gone. Life is good. Rishikesh is a city on two sides of a river. So there's the commercial side of the city. It's where most people live. It's where most businesses are. It's loud. It's noisy. It's dirty. It's all the things. And then there's the holy Ganges River. And then there's a pedestrian bridge that goes over this river. On the other side of the river, ashram land. Peace, love, and happiness. So I get to Rishikesh. I spend the first night on the busy side of the river. It's loud, it's noisy, it's dirty, it's all the things. I pack up my bag the next morning. I roll it down to this bridge. I'm really excited. I'm sort of ready for my rite of passage. This was that bridge. There's a cow in front of me on a bridge, shitting. I have to roll my luggage through this. There's a monkey beside me. You can't see it. He's messing with my backpack. There's a guy on a motorcycle on a pedestrian bridge, hand on his horn the whole time. Like this was going to get him through this wall of people any faster. And I had a migraine. I got to the other side of this bridge. I did not find peace, love, or happiness. I found a whole lot more of the same. And in that moment, I realized I had lost all sense of belonging in the world. Now, this hit me really hard because I thought, I've been traveling the world full-time for 12 years to have a sense of belonging in the world, not to lose it entirely. I thought maybe I had really messed up my life. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is me now. I'm just floating timeless in space. And I was like, okay, I got to find my people. I'm like, who are my people? Well, I'm Canadian, so maybe I'm missing some kind of cultural sense of belonging. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back to Canada and I'm gonna get a place in Toronto and I'm gonna use it as a base so I can keep traveling and Canada will be my people. So I went back to Toronto and I got a place. Canada wasn't my people. I mean, they're not my people, but they're not the people that I was looking for. So it took me a few more years to find out who those people were. And it turns out I found them in a bunch of different places, and perhaps you will as well. The first place I found my people was in professional mastermind groups. I belong to a couple of masterminds. This is a small group of people. We gather online every couple of weeks, and we just show up to the situation to be who we are. I mean, they're usually work-related in one way or another, but frankly, once you get together with this group long enough, it kind of becomes like therapy. But it's just a bunch of people who get you, and you can work through stuff together. It's really helpful. I also found it in co-working. Sometimes the sheer act of working in solidarity with other people who also are working online can be great, but most co-working spaces also create environments through events and whatnot that will help you network with and meet your people. Co-living is another way to do that. It's like co-working, next level up, whereby you have your own living space, but then you share common area spaces with other people who have the same lifestyle. You can even step that up and do co-living, co-working programs. This picture was last year. I spent a month with Hacker Paradise in Estonia. It's great because it helps to outsource some of that work of travel planning that I was talking about earlier. So you pay one fee, you show up, and then they basically give you everything. Like you've got your accommodation, your co-working, your events, your lunches, your skill shares, and all you have to do is really show up and live, work, and travel with a bunch of like-minded people. And conferences. Like, it took me way too long to figure out that I might find my people at a conference. It just didn't seem worthwhile to me. I was like, I'm house sitting on the side of a mountain in Switzerland. I can't fly across the world and pay a whole bunch of money for a hotel to go to a conference. But I highly recommend that you find the people that you're looking for in conferences, and there's so many different kinds of conferences and so many places. You can definitely find your people there. Another remote work hack for traveling the world is to consider time zones. If you have an employer or clients that require you to be online from 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time, Asia's going to be a challenge. Unless that is you're prepared to do the graveyard shift, which, great, lots of people do it, but consider your own circadian rhythm. Consider that zone of genius we talked about earlier, and whether or not Asia is going to fit into that, as an example. I shan't get too far into the great experiment of 2003, safe to say that I managed to, all of these lessons, by this point, I'd found all the people. I'd been 17 years by the time 2023 rolled around. I thought I'd kind of done it all. Turns out I hadn't. And I actually tried all these new ways of living and traveling around the world. I had my mastermind groups. I was experimenting with co-living and co-working and co-living and co-working, and attending conferences and doing all these different things. And it was an amazing way to travel the world. I also had a very playful experimental time frame or mind frame. And I changed my plans halfway through. I exercised that flexibility of changing the pace of travel when it got too fast, staying somewhere when I wanted to stay longer, and leaving when I needed to leave earlier. And I realized some very important things. First of all, my why never changed. I still travel the world to crack the code of countries and cultures around the world. I still do this to connect with people, to learn how they live and to live alongside them. But I also keep reevaluating that too. So it's also changed. I've kept it spicy by traveling and finding different ways to travel around the world and experience it. There are as many ways to be digital nomads and to travel around the world while working remotely as there are people in this room. Even more so, people at this conference. So as long as you know your why, go out there and find your own way to do it and fail forward and be flexible and keep trying new ways and meeting new people until you find that thing that feels right for you in this moment. And in the next moment, it might feel different and you might find a new right. And that's all good. Thank you very much.